Along the outskirts of Voi, we found that an excavation site damaged by the collapse of the Mombasa space elevator has a collection of Covenant remnants. This site is now referred to as Dead Calm by the project lead of this excavation site, named the Hallucinati. Post-human Covenant War, this site, named Dead Calm, is fitting as we, the human race, have prioritized rebuilding our cities and towns. This location has been on the back burner, remaining quiet. But that's not for long anymore. This site is the perfect location for hosting war games. Both Red and Blue Team have their own base marked by the two massive drills on opposite ends of the site. The two drills are the only symmetrical aspect about this site. The rest is asymmetrical and is large enough for 16 players to get along with each other. Or not. In fact, let's add in the Jackrabbit, a single occupant vehicle with the ability to control the grenade launcher as you steer. Haha, yes. Look at the details from the screens and knobs for the interior and the exterior details. They are so well refined. There have been several iterations of the Jackrabbit. This one is my personal favorite. There's decals, dirt and grime along the panels, and exhaust pipe. The whole vehicle looks as though it can sit an actual Spartan. The tires have fantastic dirt and grime detail, with slight wearing in the center of the tires. There's so much attention put into this vehicle. What I really like is the cushion of the seat. This texture looks really good, comfy as well. I want to sit in it right now. Then we move over to the grenade launcher. This reflective lens for the sighting system is a great touch. It makes the weapon itself feel like it's more part of the world when it's reflecting the actual world that it's in. This weapon does not just look like a hunk of metal with a barrel. Our beloved mod creators meticulously craft weapons like these to the fine detail, while still retaining the art style of the Halo game that they are a part of, this being Halo 3. You can use the dirt wall as a berm to get around this map in pursuit of your opponents. Two-way capture the flag or two-bomb assault would be intense, as vehicles can certainly get into the mix, instead of just traveling by foot for an objective. Now, another small detail I want to show you for the grenade launcher on this Jackrabbit is an animation for the weapon cycling. As stated earlier, there are Covenant remnants, one of them being a ghost fitted with a plasma cannon. If the surface is too hot with vehicles, you can go underground. Here you will find dynamic heavy panels that do move if you bump into them with a Spartan or a vehicle. Just Alex assisted the Hallucinati with dynamic physics for certain pieces of this map, and that just goes to show the love poured into this specific map that is part of a larger project from the Hallucinati, in which I can't wait to see what else they have cooking up. If I were you, I would keep my eyes on the Hallucinati and stay on top of the upcoming projects they have coming through the pipeline. You can enjoy this map right now with your friends by clicking on the download link in the description of this video. I think King of the Hill will be one of the best game modes to play on this beautiful map. Now, about a specific Covenant weapon, one that's been with us since Halo Combat Evolved, the Plasma Rifle. One of the sleekest designed weapons in video game history. Sleekest does not mean the most powerful, unless we're considering the Halo 2 Easter egg where that Plasma Rifle turned out to be a Scarab gun. Notwithstanding that, I think the Plasma Rifle looks cool. But how practical is it for people? It's designed for Covenant anatomy, different alien species. Given that this weapon overheats after short use, I think it's more practical for cooking bacon than anything else. But let's say we wanted to use the Covenant Plasma Rifle against the Covenant, to shred those energy shields quickly and to confuse the Covenant into thinking this was a friendly fire engagement. Use some psychological warfare. Dismantle the Covenant from the inside. Well, I teamed up with Instructor Laspina, head of Spear Training Group, and he assembled a plasma rifle fitted for human use, utilizing equipment from the UNSC. Let's take a look.
All right, welcome back. Lead instructor with Spear Training Group here again. Video games and movies and everything falls under rule of cool. From there, we get writers who write into the lore and into the videos, justification of why the art design from Rule of Cool works the way it does. From there, we get Rule of Lore. If the writers know a little bit about what they're talking about, they're going to lean it towards practicality, but they're still going to write it into the lore to justify the art style. What we're going to be going over here is taking the original designs, the Rule of Cool. We're going to look slightly at the lore and then redesign it under Rule of Practical, what really works in real considerations. We're going to be going over the Covenant Plasma Rifle. Let's go over what we know, the limitations therein, and how we are going to be able to use this to our advantage. First and foremost, though, it is worth noting that we are incapable of creating plasma weapons of our own. We do have energy-based weapons, as we see with our lasers, but we do not have plasma knowledge. This seems to be exclusively a Covenant thing, and until we are able to parse that information out with those that know, we can't produce them ourselves. So instead, we have to modify alien technology to work for us. First off, what is plasma? Plasma it's a technical fourth state of matter, where you have solid, liquid, gas. Plasma is a fourth option, and it's generally superheated. We see this in, say, a lightning storm. Whenever lightning strikes, that is plasma. Fire in general is plasma. The thing with plasma is they're very chaotic forms. Once they distribute their energy into the atmosphere surrounding or into something, say like lightning striking something, the energy dissipates and is no longer present. That's a generalization of what plasma is. We are able to manipulate plasma. As we see here, plasma is emitted out of a device and then projected several feet in front of the device. Now, one thing I want you to notice is that in this particular experiment, it is a ring of plasma. The plasma is attracted to the magnetic polarities that it creates, and the ionization and the electrons therein do respond to magnetic fields, which are generally circular in design, but generally circular. There you can see it blasting out, and you can see that ring effect that the plasma has. We know how to create it, and we know that it exists. We just cannot project it much further. There are devices that you can get that can manipulate plasma using magnetic fields, and you're more or less just a desk lamp. But we cannot send it on its own isolated path. So whatever is within the Covenant technology is able to do exactly that. Let's take a closer look at exactly what the plasma rifle is. We see that it's 24 inches tall. Pretty tall weapon there. Width-wise, 6 inches. It's a little big, but, alien technology, alien anatomy. It's not supposed to work with human anatomy. The biggest thing that we're going to look at here is 13 pounds of weight. Why is this a problem for our troopers, our Marines, our ODST? There may be augmentation. There may be stimulants, but not everybody is using those things. We need to be able to send these weapons to people who may not be augmented, and to modify, say, colonial troops or resistance fighters. Someone out there who's got to have a front, and maybe we can't supply the weapons to. We need to be able to send these captured weapons to those guys and allow them to use it more efficiently. That is the end goal with the redesign that we're going to have, because again, we can't create the technology ourselves. But 13 pounds is very heavy, especially for a handheld weapon. To put that into context, that's about 1.5 gallons. Now, it doesn't sound too bad, but once you're running around and you're exhausted and you're low on nutrition, you're low on hydration, you're not going to be able to really wield this and whip it around like you would several other weapons that you would normally be using. We see that we're using a superheated plasma, which we already know that. We know that this is creating burn marks on whatever it impacts. So we do need to consider the environments that we're going to be implementing this in. You're not going to be using this on a fuel refinery, for example, or at least it wouldn't be a good idea to do that. Muzzle velocity and effective range. These are atrocious. This is very much why this is a secondary thing. We're going to be sending this to resistance fighters or people who are just in dire need of some type of weaponry. they're going to be the ones that are going to be using this. This is also going to be one of the principal modifiers that we're going to be messing with in our redesign. 413 feet per second. This is a little bit faster than old world airsoft guns. Now, yeah, it's impacting with the physical properties of a plasma, and even a near miss can cause a burn. But still, that is, as we know, slow enough to just get out of the way of. Effective range of 50 meters. Old handguns and some of the smallest calibers are able to reach further than that. Airsoft guns are able to reach further than that. And is that because the plasma burns off? Well, yes, actually. It generally is going to burn off into the atmosphere and reach an equilibrium within the atmosphere. That is one of the main problems with plasma. So we need to do everything we can to extend that. Because I would say this would be a glorified submachine gun, but it's barely even a submachine gun at this point. Some of the other issues that we're seeing amongst our service members who use these things is it's extremely hot, liable to cook your wrist off. We can see that there's no way to hold this safely. It's very uncomfortable to hold. We can see there's no real efficient way to aim this weapon. So these are things that we are going to be correcting in our redesign. First and foremost, what's the role of this? Generally speaking, the role with the Covenant is irrelevant to us. That's not what we're using it for. So the role of this would be as an emergency weapon for those that we can't arm with other human weaponry, people who just need a weapon now. And we're going to make a adaptation to where they can more effectively wield this weapon as we capture them on the front to use them against the enemy. Similarly, Special Operations Group would be likely to use something like this, or at least carry the modified kit with them. That way they could use enemy weaponry in enemy territory to make it look that a heretic or insurrectionist is fighting, maybe even insurrectionist is fighting them instead of the UNSC. If we can deviate enemy attention away from who they assume the enemy is, or the correct enemy, us, that is an advantage that we need to keep and bear on. Not to mention, using enemy equipment is 3 times the value of our own. If we can retain our own equipment while using the enemy's, that expends them to a matter of about 3 times as much. So where does this place in our overall guide? This is mostly a compact weapon that allows us a little bit more firepower and accuracy than just your standard pistols. The action, we're not 100% sure, but what we can see from use case is that we have 2 separate polarizing poles here. We can see it alternates firing between one and then firing between the other. We also see that we have separate plasma generators along the top and the bottom, as per our research descriptions. And we also know that we only vent the heat on the top, where we also have an additional heat meter. So we need this to be visible, and we need that heat venting to be accessible, but we also need to protect our shooters from it. Now, if this is anything like our plasma pistol research, we know that we can recharge these based off of our own battery systems. So we're also going to embed a way to recharge these using our systems. Yeah, probably going to be less efficient and not something you do on the fly, but we need to be able to do that if we can do that. As far as our barrel goes, the only thing we have are these articulated poles, and we know that we have an extreme restriction on range, and we actually have an accuracy restriction as well, because as we start shooting even faster, it does start to disperse. So we need to modify this. Our trigger is created for alien anatomy. It's not going to be very user-friendly, especially for shooters who have several years learning how to pull one trigger finger. We need to change up the trigger design here. Magazine, we're going to be able to recharge a muzzle device. We can't really do much on a muzzle device with a technology that we don't understand, so we can't really change that. There doesn't appear to be a charging handle, but let's equate that to a manual vent option. We're going to need to modify this equipment to have a manual vent, so we can preemptively do that just in case. We know about our grip, our ergonomics, stock, and sighting. There is no sighting, and the general ergonomics are horrible. Most notably, these fins on the back. This makes it absolutely atrocious to utilize for human anatomy. They don't appear to have a function, so we are going to eliminate them. And in the case of, say, the needler, these were referenced as a stock for bracing for various alien anatomies, and we are assuming that's what this is as well. So we are going to chop them off. Let's take a look at the first variation, or how this is going to go together. First off, we are eliminating the rear fins on the top and the bottom. This allows for a little bit more of a handy mounting platform, most notably this rear nub and our grip assembly and this witness hole here. From here, we are able to mount our adaptation kit. Now, on the front of this adaptation kit is going to be magnetic accelerators, similar to what's on our Mac guns. These will fire in sequence as the bolt goes down the barrel, accelerating even faster. So this is not the actual number of it, but if this fires the 10th of a second if this fires 1 second after the bolt is expended, then this one will fire a half second after, this one will fire a quarter second after, and this one will fire a 10th of a second after, progressively accelerating the bolt. If we are doing this correctly, we should get approximately a 30% increase in a range and velocity, allowing us to have to do less tracking and the enemy to be less capable of evading. We do also have these mag accelerators along the top and bottom to do this for both barrels. Now, important note, we mentioned we are going to be able to charge this off of our own battery power, but because this is already a larger, bulkier, less handy weapon, we can't necessarily house an external battery. So this is going to be similar to our plasma pistol design, where once the plasma rifle is expended, we can just dump it, pick up another one, and load it into the chamber or into the housing. So let's actually go through that housing. Here you can see our housing that we are going to be utilizing for the system. First, the housing, the magnetic accelerator is pulled along the front of the device, whereas the grip and the other mounting surfaces, which we'll go over here in a moment, are all clamshelled on. The only critical components on here are the fire controls that link with the alien controls. Other than that, it's all just mounting hardware. From here, we will clamshell it down, connecting all the pieces, then attach our sighting system onto the back, which then allows us to attach a folding stock. All in all, this is a 3-component setup, and all 3 of these can be sent in a very compact package where they can then be staged and ready for use. And when there is no plasma rifle available, the folding stock allows us to fold it up and get it out of the way. So now that you see how this attaches and mounts up to the system, it is not an expedient option because we do still have to break apart those fins on the back, but it does give us an option to make it more effective. So back to our original design here. After you clamshell the grip assembly and trigger assembly on, you need a special mounting bracket that will pop through the witness hole and lock itself in place. From here, we have 2 additional pins that are simply just tensioning pins. They just hold everything in place where it should be, as well as another tensioning pin on the very back of the grip assembly. Now from here, the sighting system is also a microcomputer here. This large bolt connects our grip assembly and magnetic accelerator to our stock assembly, giving it a rigid structure. Now, most notably, we're going to translate some of the alien controls, which really isn't too much, to a numeric value. Instead of a percentage of battery, we want to know approximately how many shots we have. Similarly, we need to know the status of charging. So we'll have a charging point on the top here. Again, this isn't necessarily going to be an expedient thing, but if we can reverse charge these, we are going to do so. So along the way, we have to have a place for our foregrip. Now, 13 pounds again, plus the weight of this contraption, which is probably going to add on, we estimate to be around 6 additional pounds with the magnetic accelerator, totaling 19 pounds. We need an additional grip, and this is about the midway length of most of the center of mass, so it is going to allow us a good leveraging point. Notice how we have a raised section along this line here. Whenever manually venting, or emergency venting in that case, we want to protect the shooter's hand, so putting some material between there gives a contextual separation between a safe area to grip and a not safe area to grip. On here, we also have a flat face trigger. It's worth noting this is not really much of a mechanical trigger. It's more so just an electronic trigger. We're linking it directly to the plasma rifle trigger that's already on board. So this isn't really a very long pull trigger, and it's a very responsive one. So we don't have to worry about mechanical connections in this particular case. Here you can see we have a manual vent option. So if we blast off, say, 80% of our heat capacity, we can manually vent this at a given time whenever we pop back into cover. We also have our fire selector or safety selector in a top-down position. So whenever we're just running around, we're hovering on top of that fire selector. Whenever we come into contact, we can lower our thumb, allowing us to be able to shoot quicker. This is a pretty tight grip, but in order to make this alien weapon work for us, this is one of the ramifications that we just kind of have to accept. Similarly, on the back, we've already mentioned our connection points and articulation points and charging points and computer readout. We also want to have an optic that is at least already in our inventory. And you can see here that it just clears the line of sight. So this is probably the smallest optic in our inventory that we can safely use. But because this is a very heavy, unwieldy device and it doesn't have a huge long range anyway, this will be good enough for what we need to do. It is also at a good height off the stock to where it will be naturally under the shooter's eye and a heads up shooting position. Now on the stock, if we add weight to the stock, which considering this just pops on and off, we could add a heavier, more rigid stock if needed, maybe even one with a separate battery. But again, because of the use case of this weapon, this is going to be pretty much deployed or kept in a packaging until there's another weapon to stage off of it. So let's take a look at this folding stock. If we were to fold this in, you can see we have a button here. You click that, it would release it, and it would fold it around the right side of the weapon. We also made sure to keep these angles along the side that match up with these angles along the plasma rifle side. Now to give a live demonstration of this particular lock, folding stock system, which will still work on the actual weapon, we have an example. So here you can see we have a folding stock. Now obviously a completely different weapon, but something like this we would want to stow it away and make it at least more handy. So if you see here on this stock, it can just simply be lifted, broken away, and folded completely to the side. Mind you, while this is folded to the side, our action is still able to be worked. All of our controls are still functional. Everything still works. Okay, so to reiterate our entire process here on just the principle of use, this is not going to be a primary service weapon per se. This is going to be fielded to people in emergency situations where they need a weapon to fight, something to fight. And we're already picking these things up whenever we conquer territory. So we may as well send them to the front lines so they have at least something to fight with. The material usage is near a minimum. Aside from the plasma rifle itself, We really only need to do magnetic accelerators, which we have plenty of, and a few bit of polymers, which is one of the most abundant side products out of petroleum-based products anyway. So we're able to mass produce these as is, and we can field these and arm people up on the fringes and the frontiers to at least defend themselves. Similarly, giving this to special operations teams who don't want to be identified as UNSC, leaving traces behind that don't look like UNSC would be an extreme value. Whenever we are able to conquer the Covenant technology and learn how they harness plasma technology, we 100% could redesign Covenant technology in a more human-friendly way. If that is something you, as a trooper, a Marine, ODST, or Spartan, are interested in, let us know below and bring us some more back. We will be more than happy to create that for you. Thank you, Coyote, and thank you, the community.
Thank you, Instructor Laspina, for taking one of the sleekest weapons of all time and making them fitted for human use. I think it's neat seeing Instructor Laspina pull out all these different firearms that he has to demonstrate what it is that he's talking about. It all feels very real, very tangible in this case. He's reworked weapons from Mass Effect and Titanfall. You could check that out on his channel. I'll link his channel below in the description. You could click the playlist on screen right now that shows Halo Practical Weapons. These are videos me and Instructor Laspina have worked on together, and you could check out all of my other videos I've made on my own. Safe travels this holiday season, and enjoy all the warm, cozy nights. Thank you for being here.